Subject today we'll talk about, do you know your spiritual purpose? Do you know your spiritual purpose? Do you really know why you're here? Do you know why God has assigned you to where you are? Have you any idea what you are to be doing as a follower of Christ? And the reason I said this is personal is that I really did not find out my true calling. I was in my late 40s or early 50s when it was revealed to me what I am called to do, what I had been called to do. I have been a Christian since I was 16, very active in the church all of my life. Worked in the church. Those things I felt comfortable doing, singing in the choir, teaching Sunday school. I had performed those tasks throughout my spiritual growth. When I went off to college, I was active. When I went into the military, I was active. So I've always been active in the church, or involved in the church in some form or fashion. And so whatever natural talents I had, I have always been willing to surrender to God, if I was in a church setting, to whatever authority was over me at the time, to utilize the gifts I had in service to the Lord. But I still did not know my spiritual purpose. I was not aware of what God had called me to do. Now, the things you want to do for God, if they're not against His laws, it's not against His statutes, then you can just do it. But somewhere in a lifespan, you need to discover what it is that God has called you to do. Do you know your spiritual purpose? Well, I found my spiritual purpose really after I had, as many of you already know, I'm bipolar, and I've been fighting depression just about all of my life. I was in a depressed state for about 2.5 to 3 years, and when I came out of that depression, it's actually the time I really discovered what my spiritual purpose is. And it was so enlightening to me until it has really given me stability in my ministry. And a part of my effectiveness, I believe, is because I'm aware of why I am here. Now, I've gotten this revelation through many parts of the Bible, but the part of the Bible that just brought it to me in a clear form, where I had no doubt as to what I am to do, is found in the book of Ezekiel. Now, I had been inspired in Matthew's when it says that the Spirit of the Lord is upon me and He have called me to preach the gospel to the poor, to bind up broken heart. And so I claimed that. I claimed that decoration because that's where my passion was. And so I'd use that as a motivation in my early ministry. But when I got in the book of Ezekiel, which was recommended to me by a friend of mine who stated that it would be a blessing to me, in that many believe that Ezekiel had gone through a depressing period in his life. And so to kind of give you the background, Ezekiel was a priest and a prophet, and he ministered to Judah in the dark days, 70 years of Babylonian captivity. He was carried to Babylon, and God had told him He was going to reassemble, and He was going to breathe back into the children of Israel the same as He had brought the dry bones back. And it was Ezekiel's responsibility to bring a positive message in a negative situation. And that can be challenging sometimes as pastors. And sometimes we find churches that, or we'll assign churches that are going through several different problems or situations or circumstances where they are going through some dark days, and we take on the task And as a result of taking on the task, we need spiritual help. And if it is our spiritual purpose, then we know that it has been ordained by God. It will be supported by God, and God will be the stabilizing fact that will give us the ability to overcome whatever situation we may encounter. And this is what we find with Ezekiel. So I'm going to talk to you about four aspects: my calling, prepared to fulfill a calling, being consecrated and dedicated, and also carrying out the mission, knowing and carrying out your mission. And my calling can be found in Ezekiel. If you got your Bibles, turn Ezekiel, the third chapter, Ezekiel chapter 3, and we're going to be reading verse 14, Ezekiel chapter 3. And really, it's just going to be 17a. It's not going to be the whole verse. I'm just going to use the first part. It says, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Son of man, I've made you a watchman. A watchman is someone who stand guard and warn people of ensuing danger. And then once they see the danger, they sound an alarm so that the people can prepare themselves for whatever it is that is challenging them at that time. So I know now, through reading Ezekiel, that I am a watchman. That's my job. My job is to sound a warning to people, to make them aware that God is speaking to all of us, and God has asked me to warn you, not to change you, not to make you do anything different, but just to come and warn you of some impending dangers that may befall you, especially if you step outside of his hedge of protection. And then when God gives you an assignment, he prepares you for it. He just doesn't give you an assignment. And if you go to Ezekiel chapter 2, I'm going to read that entire chapter. It's very short. And now you will see that he prepares the watchman to carry out his assignment. It says, And he said unto me, Son of man, stand upon thy feet, and I will speak unto thee. And the Spirit entered into me when he spake unto me, and set me upon my feet, that I heard him that speak unto me. And he said unto me, Son of man, I send thee to the children of Israel, to a rebellious nation that has rebelled against me. They and their fathers have transgressed against me even unto this very day. For they are impotent children and stiff-hearted. I do send thee unto them, and thou shalt say unto them, Thus saith the Lord. And they, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear, for they are a rebellious house, yet shall know that there hath been a prophet among them. And thou, son of man, be not afraid of them, neither be afraid of their words, though briars and thorns be with thee, and thou doest dwell among scorpions. Be not afraid of their words, nor be dismayed at their looks, though they be a rebellious house. And thou shalt speak my words unto them, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear. For they are a most rebellious. But thou, O Son of man, hear what I say unto thee. Be not thou rebellious like that rebellious house. Open thy mouth and eat that I give thee. And when I looked, behold, a hand was sent unto me, and lo, a roll of a book was therein. And he spread it before me, and it was written within and without. And there was written therein lamentations and mourning and woe. Chapter 3. Moreover, he said unto me, Son of man, eat thou find it, eat this scroll, and go speak unto the house of Israel. So I opened my mouth that he caused me to eat the scroll. And he said unto me, Son of man, cause thy belly to eat, and thy bowels with this roll that I give thee. Then did I eat, and was in my mouth as honey for sweetness. And so when I came out of the 2.5 year depression, I actually read through the Bible 3 times. I read through the King James Version, I read through the Modern English Version, then I read through the King James Version again. And so I ate of his word. Because the warning was, you're going to be going to rebellious people, but don't you be rebellious. And I have a rebellious nature in me. So he said, so don't you be rebellious. And so I read the word, and the word ministered to me. So he said, Ezekiel ate the word, and it tastes like honey. The word was good, was nourishing, was fulfilling. And as I read the Bible, as I had never read it before, being led by the Spirit of God, then I could better understand that I had been called a watchman. That I'd been called a watchman. And by reading the word, he had prepared me to be a watchman. By studying his word, reminding me that I'll be going before people who do not want to hear from him. But I'm to tell them anyway. Whether they hear or don't hear, you just tell them. Our job is to speak the word. We can't make anybody obey the word. Our job is just to speak the word. Then he consecrated and dedicated me to be a watchman. Ezekiel 3:22-27. Ezekiel 3:22-27. And it reads thusly. And this really take me back to my depression, okay? He said, the hands of the Lord was upon me, and said unto me, arise, go forth into the plains, and I will there talk with thee. Then I arose and went forth into the plain, and behold, the glory of the Lord stood there, as the glory which I saw at the river Kibar. And I fell on my face. Then the Spirit entered into me, and set me upon my feet, and spake with me, and said unto me, go shut thyself within thine house. But thou, O son of man, behold, they shall put bands upon thee, and shall bind thee with them, and thou shalt not go out among them. And I will make thy tongue cleave to the roof of thy mouth, and thou shalt be dumb, and shall not be to them a reprover, for they are a rebellious house. But when I speak with thee, I will open thy mouth, and thou shalt say unto them, thus said the Lord God, he that heareth, let him hear, but he that forbear, let him forbear, for they are a rebellious house. And so it actually explained my depression, because I was bound in my house with depression. I could not go out. My tongue was at the roof of my mouth because I didn't talk to anyone about Christ. I actually was just off the scene for 2.5 years. And so in this process, I was being consecrated. I was getting to the point where I could dedicate myself to the Lord in a way that I'd never done before. And it was challenging. It was challenging for my family. It was challenging for my wife, for my children. But I had to go through this. I'm looking backwards now. I had to go through this process before God could put me in a position where I could be used. And then once you've been consecrated, you got to know what your mission is. And I found out my mission, and it's found in Ezekiel chapter 3, starting with verse 17. Ezekiel 3, verse 17. It says, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the words at my mouth, and give them warning from me. When I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, and thou givest him not warning, nor speak to warn the wicked from his wicked way, to save his life, the same wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thine hand. Yet if thou warn the wicked, and he turn not from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his iniquity, but thou hast delivered thy soul. Again, when a righteous man doeth turn from his righteousness and commit iniquity, and I lay a stumbling block before him, he shall die, because thou hast not given him warning. He shall die in his sin, and his righteousness which he had done shall not be remembered. But his blood will I require at